We all know this image. Someone on the street shouting at shadows, a friend who suddenly spirals into paranoia, a family member who once seemed fine but one day breaks. We call it going crazy. We shake our heads, we whisper about them, we pull away. But rarely do we stop and ask, how does this happen? Because no one wakes up one morning and simply loses their mind. The road to madness is paved with silence, with neglect, with pain that was never named. If you look closely at the past of someone who breaks, you will often find a brutal truth. Years of being dismissed, years of carrying unbearable weight alone, a child whose cries went unheard, a teenager who learned to hide their wounds, an adult who smiled politely while their world was falling apart inside. We imagine crazy as sudden, but in reality, it's a slow accumulation, a storm building over years until the mind can no longer hold it back. Think of it like this. Every human being has a threshold, a container where they store stress, trauma, disappointment. Some people are lucky. They were taught how to empty that container. They had parents who soothed them, friends who listened, places where they could let the pain out. But others were taught the opposite. Don't cry, don't complain, be strong. And so their container filled, drip by drip. Every insult, every abandonment, every secret shame, until one day it cracked. And that crack is what we call crazy. But if you listen closely, you'll see it's not madness at all. It's the final scream of a soul that has been ignored too long. Psychologists talk about trauma, about psychosis, about breakdowns, but behind those words is a human story. Imagine growing up in a home where no one believed your feelings. Imagine being told over and over what you saw, what you felt, what you feared wasn't real. That gaslighting doesn't just confuse you, it shatters your grip on reality itself. And so, later in life, when stress rises, that fragile thread between you and the world begins to fray. You lose trust in your own mind, you doubt what you see, what you feel, and eventually, reality itself becomes slippery. That's what madness often is. It's not the loss of reason, but the loss of trust. Trust in others, trust in yourself, trust in a world that was never safe to begin with. But here's the part that rarely gets spoken. The person who goes crazy is often the one who endured the most. They weren't weak, they were strong for too long. They held the family's silence, they carried pain when no one else wanted to face, and when their mind finally broke, it wasn't because they lacked resilience. It was because they were never given space to heal. If you have ever felt close to that edge yourself, the sleepless nights, the racing thoughts, the moments where reality feels too heavy to bear, then you know this truth. Madness doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is born in the shadows of brutal pasts. It is the language of unspoken suffering. And maybe, instead of asking, why did they go crazy, we should be asking, how did they survive as long as they did? When a person begins to unravel, it rarely looks dramatic at first. It's subtle. Sleepless nights, forgotten meals, a creeping sense of paranoia. A voice in the back of the mind whispering, you can't trust them, you can't trust yourself. At first, they fight it. They push through, go to work, smile in conversations. But inside, Their world is shifting. The walls don't feel stable anymore. The familiar becomes strange, and every unhealed wound from the past rises like ghosts demanding attention. This is the brutal past resurfacing. The ignored child who was never comforted, the bullied teenager who swallowed every insult, the adult who kept smiling through betrayal after betrayal. All of them come back, and the mind, overloaded with pain, begins to fracture. Some call it psychosis, others call it breakdown, but in truth, it is the body's last resort, because when suffering cannot be spoken, it speaks in delusions, in paranoia, in hallucinations, not as weakness but as a desperate form of survival. Think of the person who talks to themselves on the street. To us, it looks like madness, but inside, it may be the only way they know how to feel less alone. Think of the one who spirals into conspiracy theories. To us, it looks irrational, but inside, it may be safer to believe in an invented enemy than to face the unbearable loneliness of being unseen. Madness has a logic if you dare to look closely. And here's the painful irony. Society fears those who break. We lock them away. We call them crazy, insane, dangerous. But we rarely ask what brought them there. We ignore the years of trauma, the silence, the neglect, and in doing so, we repeat the very pattern that broke them in the first place. We ignore them. But listen to this carefully. Not everyone who breaks is lost forever. Some return, some rebuild. Because the mind, even when shattered, has a strange resilience. It can bend without fully snapping. It can lose itself and then, with care, find its way back. But the path back is not paved with judgment. It is paved with compassion, with being seen, with someone whispering the words they never heard as children. I believe you. I see you. You matter. If you ever felt yourself slipping, like reality is too heavy, like your thoughts are spiraling beyond your control, you need to know this. You are not weak. You are carrying something massive, something invisible, something your past forced you to hold alone. What looks like madness is often the body's proof that it cannot be kept going the old way. And that, paradoxically, is the beginning of healing. Because breakdown is not just about collapse, it is also about exposure. It brings to the surface what was hidden, the grief, the rage, the loneliness. It rips open the mask and demands that something finally changes. And that's why the story doesn't end with madness. It continues into transformation, into therapy, into art, into connection, into finally telling the truth they were never allowed to tell. So the next time you see someone unraveling, don't reduce them to the word crazy. See the child who wasn't hurt. See the human who was abandoned. See the brutal past written across their silence. And if this story feels like yours, let me say this to you now. You are not broken. You are breaking open. And while it may feel unbearable, it also means the silence is ending. Your pain is finally being spoken, even if through chaos. And that means, no matter how far gone you feel, there is still a way back.